know Marnie. She is jumping in and helping us facilitate some of our post CX bootcamp debriefs. So we're excited to have Marnie on the team helping us. So, well, good. So, hey, we do have a new face. Why don't we just start with some brief introductions? Abby, I know we've met via email. I don't think we've met yet via Zoom. So, nice to meet you. I founded Client Savvy. Wednesday will be 22 years ago. We're now part of the Clearly Rated team. We joined them in April via an acquisition, and I've been leading these CXMP workshops since I think 2021, late 20, early 21. So, but yeah, that's me. Why don't you introduce yourself to the group, and then we'll let the others jump in.
I'm Abby Humphrey. I'm very excited to be here. I'm at CBiz, which is a professional services company, globally traded or publicly traded. So it's my first time being in a publicly traded company, which I'm excited about. Um, Before that, well, and I've been here almost a year now. And before that, I was at a law firm for 13 years. So I've known of Ryan's work for a long time and am excited to have this opportunity to transition into an actual CX role. Because when I was at the law firm, it was, yeah, we will do CX, we will. It was a lot of like, we will, and then not fulfilled. So I am really excited to be on this journey.
Jennifer, why don't you go next?
So yes, I'm at Hensel Phelps Construction. I started there in April of last year, so just newly joined this company. But prior to that, led and stood up a CX program at another a nonprofit research scientific organization where we had been working with Client Savvy since 2018. So really excited to begin, get to learn more. It feels like at the previous job I had, I didn't get to spend 100% of my time on CX, and now I do, which is so exciting. And I get to focus on things like charters and governance and, really apply some of the tools and the rigor to what we want to do. So I'm very excited. Um, yeah, nice to meet you.
I can go next. So my name's Caitlin or Katie. I am on a treadmill, so that's why I'm moving. I spend 8 hours of my day at Beach Weishman. We're a top 200 accounting firm. I'm the client experience and innovation manager there, and I've been there for 13 years now. And then I spend the other 5 hours of my day also on the computer because I'm also an author, and I just recently got a book deal with Penguin Random House, so I don't want to be sitting all day. And so that's why I am on the treadmill. So if I'm out of breath, that is why.
So I'm dying to know what's the book.
So it's an adult romance book. It's nerdy, um, because I like Star Wars and like Comic Cons and stuff. So yeah, so that'll be out next year.
Great. I've got some.
Um,
I've got a very nerdy daughter who loves that kind of stuff. You have to send me
Awesome.
Ryan's
Well,
copy. I'll
she's
give you
if
some
she's
reading.
18 or older, then
She's 20.
this
Yeah.
okay, perfect. Then that might be perfect for her.
Great. Well, congratulations. That's exciting.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then Marnie.
I'll jump in. Hi guys, my name is Marnie Terdash, and hello from the Pacific Northwest. I'm in Oregon, California girl in Oregon. From 2015 to 2025, led a ground up B2B client experience program for a custom e-learning development company. I've been in educational technology my whole career. And last year, I soft launched a boutique CX consultancy. And I've been in these workshops. I think this is my seventh month. I love so much the practice of CX. And Ryan is such a guru that I always learn things I'd never even thought about applying CX to, such as hiring and mergers and acquisitions and other areas. So I really love this work so much, and I'm thrilled to be applying it as a consultant and spreading the good word about how to implement CX and governance and data tracking. So very
Great.
happy to be here.
Well, thanks, Marnie, and it's been great having you. So today is going to be one of the more fundamental days in this series. Standing up a CX charter is one of the very early phase things I recommend organizations do when they're trying to implement CX. So, Marnie, I know you've done this kind of stuff before. Have you ever formalized a CX charter?
It's a funny answer. No,
No?
I didn't have to because the need was so clear to my leadership when this all started for me a number of years ago.
Yeah. I've never done one for my own business. I've helped others create them, but I've never done one myself either because, as CEO, we didn't lack the vision and funding and excitement towards it. Katie, how about you? Have you done a CX charter before?
We actually have, we do have a formal one. We have like a CX charter and like kind of a North Star. Um, but it can always use an upgrade.
Yeah, yeah. I think CX charters, in my mind, are a lot like strategic plans. They're something you do the first time, but then every year, every 3 years, you want to come back and re-update that because the scope of what you're trying to do next changes.
Yep, and that's exactly what we did. We ours updates every 3 years, so we just try to align it kind of with those goals as well.
Oh, fantastic. Well, good. I think I'm going to take off then, and I'll let you lead this one. Jennifer, how about you guys?
When I was at my previous organization, we did have sort of a charter working with you all. We tried to create like a structure and goals and set of sort of like a rule book and sort of rules of engagement around what we're doing, why we're doing, why it's important. So we started that. And then where I am now, they had already initiated the program and when I joined. So a lot of those pieces and parts are in place in terms of like guiding principles and, strategy, the framework, but it's not all in one. And when I look at sort of a sample charter, it doesn't feel like it covers everything, so I feel
Right,
like I have a lot to learn and to put it all together. And like you said, refine it because things have changed even since I started.
right, right.
So I'm
Probably
excited.
because probably because you started there.
Yeah, yeah, true. Yeah. Yeah.
And then Abby, how about you? What's your experience with CX charters?
Talking about it in concept only, when I was still at the law firm, I'd put together a plan that was approved, and part of that was having a charter because I think that's especially a hard thing to bridge with attorneys. And I think you know that too from working with law firms,
Yep.
trying to allow outsiders like marketing to talk to their clients. Um, and then here, my boss, Jen Caro, obviously has gone through the program. And so, she was part of Markham, and then when they were acquired last, or actually, I guess it was November the year before of CBiz, there's a lot of excitement from CBiz, which I'm not used to coming from a law firm world. They're like
Right.
excited for us to talk to their clients, and I'm like, really? I'm allowed to? So they're like clamoring for more here. I think a charter will help us, like big picture, to have like a clear direction. But it's just crazy to not have all those obstacles on the road.
Great, great. So today's session is, I know we typically book 3 hours for these. This is only going to take 3 hours if we actually want to, spend all the time working and crafting our own charters. So uh, charters aren't that complicated. They are, and they're not at the same time. Conceptually, they're pretty straightforward. Trying to figure out the right pieces and parts to put into them is a little more nuanced. So we'll kind of like see how this goes today, and if we get done early, we'll get done early. No one ever complains about finding free time in their calendar. The CX program requires 18 hours, but each one of these workshops counts as three. So if we get done early, you still get your 3 hours. So we're not worried about the time here. Um, and then as we get into the actual workshopping portion, we have the opportunity to, you know, if each one of us wants to work on our own charter and kind of brainstorm together, we can. Since Marnie's now an independent organization, and Jennifer kind of has one, Katie's got one. Maybe we all want to tag team and help Abby put one together for CBiz. We can collaborate and help Abby do that. So it's kind of a choose our own adventure day today on how we do these. So, any questions about the overall structure and agenda? All right. Well, I am, as always, and Abby, your first time with us. Have you used Mural before?
Have I used what? I'm sorry.
Mural. It's a like digital whiteboarding collaboration program.
No.
Well, if you click the link that is dropped in the chat, you will jump into our mural. I'm going to share the screen just for recording purposes, but you guys certainly don't have to see my screen. And Abby, since you are new with us, I just want to remind you everything we talk about during these is considered non-disclosure because we are openly talking about our own businesses and challenges and things like that. So what happens here stays here. We do record these sessions, but the only people who have access to the recordings are the CXMP candidates. So part of your intake as we go through the rest of the process, we'll have you sign our group non-disclosure agreement. So just we'll assume privacy on all these things. So
Got it.
all right. So everyone's here. So let's I'm going to start with some of these open questions. What's hardest about launching a corporate initiative?
I would say getting buy-in.
Okay.
Right?
Yep. Yeah, let's see. Started typing. So anyone can double click anywhere and it makes these sticky notes, Abby. So if you want to drop any answers in, you can type in. What else is tough about launching a corporate initiative?
Actually having the resources and support to actually achieve your goals and initiatives.
Okay. Great. What else?
I was going to add, like, not overdo, kind of like adding to, there's so many other corporate initiatives to create something that's just like one more thing that's going to get lost in all of the stuff. So really trying to align it with other things that are existing.
Yep. See someone gathering all the data that will result in a green light. Yep. So how have you I'm going to shift that second question a little bit. What initiatives have you seen launched successfully? And how do you think that happened? You've certainly seen lots of things launch and fail, right? We've all seen that. So let's look at the ones that launched and worked. What were the things that worked?
So we're still kind of rolling it out in pieces, but the CFT, like doing the surveys, has been successful. And I think it's because we kind of did it in pieces. So we did a baseline for all our clients that we focused on our outsourced accounting department where they have very like routine deliverables, like monthly deliverables. Now we're working on doing a tax pilot where it's kind of timed with the tax deliverables. And I think part of the reasons why it was so successful is one, we did a good job training, and two, we kept the management committee like looped in every step of the way and kind of were showing our successes and what we've been doing, like kind of tying it back to some of the internal firm metrics. So I think that's why it went well when people were not gonna sigh and be upset that we're asking them to use one more piece of technology.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff there. Anyone else see anything? Not just CX, but any initiatives you've seen launched in your company or company past that just really worked well? Like what
I
made that
mentioned,
work? Go on, Abby.
oh, sorry.
Jennifer, go ahead.
I mentioned like intentional change management. So engaging sort of all the different stakeholders across the organization beforehand and during and then after, like being very thoughtful about how things are rolling out and, you know, again, kind of alignment with other things that are underway that people care about.
So that's the what's in it for me alignment. I'm a big fan of with them. Marnie, what have you seen launch that worked well and what made it work well? You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Actually, a software implementation is what's coming to mind. And it really was about creating that business case. Why does the team need it? Proving the due diligence that we, went through a discovery process quite thoroughly, looking at a variety of competitors, and also creating that business case to show how it was going to save the company money, make the company money, efficiencies, and then the implementation plan had to be approved by a number, managers. And to the point, very well said about change management, intentional change management, and getting that buy-in from the folks who are going to have to use or engage with the tool.
All right, so it sounds like you had a formal implementation plan that was approved by stakeholders as well. It's great.
Yeah.
So with all this we just talked about, why do you think we need a CX charter as an organization? Abby, I'll pick on you.
Um, I mean, I hate to steal the wording that Caitlin used, but kind of using it as your North Star. Like it gives you a goal or an endpoint, like something to work toward.
Absolutely.
I would add that CX is, at least in my experience, is not very commonly understood or even known. And so it requires a lot of awareness of any bias or misunderstanding or even just lack of awareness of what it is when we say CX to leadership and others.
I love that. And I also, and all that's there already, but I think too, it's almost like for me, I think of it as it's a goal, but it's a commitment. It's like we're all using the same language. We're shooting for the same goals. We're agreeing. It's like an agreement, to go forward together and be clear on why we're doing what we're doing, how we're doing what we're doing, etc.
Yeah, I often call the CX charter like the Declaration of Independence, and your CX strategic plan is like the Constitution, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your CX strategic plan is going to be long. There's going to be a lot of stuff in there. It's going to, it's not going to be read casually, but everyone should be able to quote the first few lines of your CX charter. Like organizationally, everyone should know we the people, right? So one of the firms I think did it best, Newman Munson Architects. I always talk about them. If you guys ever want to just see what best in class looks like, they're one of the ones to look at. When when they launched their CX charter, they did it at an all hands. They printed out this like, beautiful like square cut like 8 page, because like each page had like, like two or three like key points on it. So it's, regular. It fit on a sheet of paper front and back, but it was this nice bifold booklet, printed heavy bound. Everyone got a copy. It was this great artifact. And after kind of spending a whole day going through the whole thing and really walking everyone through their CX realignment, they had a big 2 foot by 3 foot poster board, and there was a Sharpie. So, all right, don't sign this if you're not in, but if you're in, come up and sign your commitment to this charter. And to a person, everyone got up and signed it, and it's framed and sitting on the wall in their office, and it's a it was a moment of creating that like you said, it's a declaration as an organization. So so that's what we're going to work through today, and there's just a couple of tools I'm going to walk you through. There's not a lot to this, but there's a couple of tools I want to walk you through. And one of the things I want us to think about before we start working on our charter, because this is going to nuance what goes into the charter. Think about your decision-making paradigm as an organization. And there's a lot of ways you can think about decision-making, but is your organization, very hierarchical, and the CEO or the managing partner says, and thus everybody does? Or on the other end of the spectrum, is it very democratic, where everything is consensus, nothing happens unless we all say it happens? And I know in professional services, there's a lot more democracies than there are hierarchies. So kind of think about your organization there. And then, again, organizationally, would you say the organization is more data-driven on the right-hand side? Or is it more intuition driven? So, you think about maybe someone like Steve Jobs. He was very much in this top left quadrant, right? Didn't matter what the industry data said. Industry data said you got to have a keyboard on your phone. He said, I got this intuition, I got this belief that we can destroy that very top-down hierarchical leader. If you read about the guy, know about the guy, he really led as a figurehead. So he's very, top left. Right? So where would you put your organization? And there's no like right or wrong answers here. Katie, you've been in the same place, 13 years, you said? You probably have a pretty good sense of how Beach Fleischmann works. Where would you put Beach Fleischmann in this model?
We're definitely the top left quadrants. I'd say kind of more in the middle-ish of it rather than like really high up there. Because we are still more intuition driven than I'd like us to be. And we do always have to go through an approval process through our management committee. But I guess one good thing about being more intuition driven is that they are very like supportive of our methods and, trust our expertise. So it's never very hard to get approval. But yeah, I'd say we're about in that range. I think you're muted.
Sorry, I coughed, so I muted and forgot to unmute. So Jennifer, where would you put Hensel Phelps compared to where Beach Fleischmann is?
Mm. I'm still learning. I would say we're kind of in the middle between data driven and intuition, because there's a lot of much more reliance on data, and I think there's a lot of rigor around using data and insights to inform decisions. So kind of in the middle. And then I would say it's maybe yeah, kind of right there.
Okay.
It depends. So some things are more democratic than hierarchical, but maybe a little bit up on the hierarchy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. I would have put you
It's
guys a
not
little
like,
further.
yeah,
I would
it's
have
not
put you
like where I
further data
was.
driven based on my interactions compared to a lot of other orgs I work with. But
Do you think Hensel Phelps is more data driven?
yeah, but you also just came out of an organization filled with data scientists, so.
Yes. That's true. So it's like my perspective is different. Yeah. But I think you're right. I think it probably is more data than intuition. So you could move it over a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there. I think
Yeah.
that's about right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abby, how about you? Where would you put your organization?
Well, like Jennifer, I've also been here less than a year, so I feel like I'm still navigating that a little bit. But I feel like I'd be about where Katie is like hierarchical, like up that high, but I would be somewhere in the middle, maybe a little more on data driven, like on that line. I feel like we straddle that. Um, but being publicly traded, and why I said I was excited about that, I started a nonprofit, then I worked at that law firm, which is privately owned. So then this is a huge change for me, like huge adjustment, like mindset and everything. But we have all these investors that we have to keep happy. So it is like, oh, we're so happy you're doing the CX work, but what does that say data wise? And I think this year and the coming years there will be even a push to like push prove that against revenue even.
Right.
So I think they want the data. Like we did a lot of number crunching at the end of the year for things.
Gotcha.
Um,
Marnie, you're a
yeah.
shop of one now, so where would you put yourself?
Well, I'm going back to that corporate experience where I didn't need a CX charter. We were definitely in that lower left-hand corner. Our CX, or rather my CX initiative began as a result of a very heinous client escalation that forced me to go to my CEO and say, I need to make sure this never happens to any client or any of us ever again. And I started by collecting client feedback. There was nothing else but intuition at that point. But as I began year over year showing numbers and metrics, it definitely moved more over to that
Hmm.
data driven side of expectations when it came to the CX
Right.
work.
Great. So I ask this because knowing where your organization is here is gonna should shape the kinds of stuff you put into your charter.
Hmm.
I mean, there's so much you can pack into a charter, but a charter, like it should be that 1 to 2 page document. It shouldn't be anything extensive. It needs to be the executive summary. You're not writing a CX strategy. The the charter is what's kind of authorizing you to go take that next step. So if you find yourself very much in this bottom left quadrant as you're working on the charter, you've got to be speaking to a lot more people
Hmm.
because in the democracy we need a lot more buy-in from a lot more stakeholders, authentic buy-in, not willing compliance, but authentic buy-in, because we need the majority to vote and say, yeah, we're going to do this. And if you find yourself over on the intuition side, the language of the charter needs to be much more emotionally driven. We probably need to be telling a story through there that's pulling at the hearts of the people reading it. Right? So that starts guiding. If we're an intuition democracy, we need to write to that. If we're a very data driven organization, the charter better have some hard data in it. Otherwise, we're talking to the wrong audience. If we're up on this hierarchical scale, we need to be laser focused on communicating the value prop to the top of the hierarchy who's going to make the decision, and we're writing the charter to enable them to push it down the organization. Right? Versus writing to the whole organization to get everybody to vote and buy in on this. Is that a helpful paradigm just to kind of help us figure out who and how we're writing to? I mean, there's probably 20 other ways we could frame this, but I know staring at a blank page is daunting. So I put this exercise in just to help us, focus a little bit.
Right. Can I
Yep, please.
ask the question? And it's just more of a comment. This is great and very helpful. Um, in my current organization, I feel like they are quite data driven almost to a fault, like focusing a lot on, say, NPS and scores and things, which is trying to, and so keeping that in mind, I want to, yes, include data, but also balance that with like the context of, not over focusing on the data, like that balance. And I'm not saying it clearly, but, understanding the full context and not going too far with the scores and stepping back.
Right,
So
right.
it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, if your organization is, over here,
Yeah.
you got to recognize who you're writing to, but you probably need some balance because they might have gone too far that way, and we need
Yeah.
some room for intuition and innovation to happen outside of
Yeah.
the data.
Right.
Sometimes there is just that, that insane genius who, it doesn't, the data's not there, but the insane genius happens to be right.
Yeah.
So, great point, Jennifer. So then, um, every CX charter is going to be different based on your organization, based on where you are and where you're trying to go next. And if this is the first time you've done a charter, I don't recommend trying to write a charter for getting to the finish line of CX. You're nowhere near the finish line. You're taking the first lap of a, long race here. So all we're trying to define in the CX charter is kind of directionally what does true north look like and what are we going to try to accomplish in the first couple of steps. We might not even know what the destination is. We just know we're heading north. Don't know yet if we're, going to Minnesota, if we're going to Calgary, we're going to Barrow, we're going to the North Pole. I mean, we don't know what the destination is. We just know we're going north in some way, right? So, you've got a couple of pieces here of the charter, and some pieces are intended to be, really shared and written broadly, and then some are intended to only be shared with the CX team. So your charter kind of broadly might only focus on some of these elements in the top half of this guide. So the project overview, the purpose, expectations, the vision of the CX team. Maybe your charter is standing up a CX team. So what is the vision of what that team's going to do? What is the vision of CX as a whole? What does success look like? Why are we doing this? That's the cause for action. What's the cultural impact? Like, how is this going to change who we are? What's the scope of what we're doing? How do we set expectations of the people reading this? Because, if we're doing this and someone's reading it, we're probably going to ask them to partake in some way, shape, or form. So what do we expect of them? Responsibilities. What are the behaviors we desire of them? And what are some metrics and goals? So that's, a dozen things. You're probably not going to fit all dozen in your charter. So this is, kind of a recipe kit of you pick what works for you. You might have a second page of the charter that's not for everybody, but that might just be for your CX team, or maybe that's only for the executive leadership team. So some things that might go into page 2 of the charter, that's the not broadly distributed part of the charter, are some things like CX program details, constraints, communication strategy, a decision-making framework, priorities, enduring impact, risks, planning how you're going to measure innovation, dependencies, governance, and some behaviors for the CX team. So we might be talking about desired behaviors of the organization, but we might have a different set of desired behaviors for the CX team who's leading this. Not a misaligned, not two separate sets, but, you know, we might be asking for some kindergarten level behavior in the charter everyone reads, and then we're asking for some high tea etiquette from our CX team, right? Exemplary behavior. So is everyone going to see how these pieces and parts might fit together to help us craft out that charter?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see anything missing? Especially those of you who have done this before? Or do you have any questions about what any of these pieces mean?
I was going to say to include like a rollout plan for your share broadly, but I guess that would be implied somewhere. Expectations.
Yeah, so rolling out the charter is not going to be something you're going to put in the charter.
In the charter, okay.
Right, that's going to be part of your strategic communication of how you push that out organizationally. But yeah, that might be something that ends up down here in the share to the CX team. Here's how we're going to roll this out to everybody. So that's a good addition there, Marnie. Anyone else have any questions about any of these components or anything you think might be missing? I do have an ebook on creating a CX program charter in here, so you guys can certainly grab that. I do have an example in here, so you can see what that looks like. All right. And that's what we're going to work on today. So, what's the purpose, cause for action, cultural impact, what's the scope, expectations and responsibilities, desired behaviors, and then metrics.
Brian, how did you get there to that? Just,
If you double click on this.
oh, okay.
Yep.
I was going down. Got it.
Yep. Okay. So some great resources to have before writing the charter is, do you have your corporate vision, mission, values? Because your CX charter sure as heck should align with your vision, mission, and values. So, do you have an existing strategic plan? If so, you might want to read the strategic plan. Your charter should probably serve as an accelerator or an enabler for at least one key element on the strategic plan. So when we start thinking about, purpose, cause for action, those are the kinds of things that should be serving the strategic plan. Cultural impact, that should be aligning with vision, mission, values. Right? So, so as we kind of get into this, we're ready to start building out a charter, unless you guys have any other questions. It's one of those things that's not hard, but really hard. Because they're like writing a vision statement. It's not hard, but it's really hard. All right. Well, let me ask, how do you guys want to work on this? Katie, I know you said you've already got one. Do you want to work on a revised draft? Do we all want to partner up and work in pairs? Do we want to all work together on one?
I'm fine with whatever. I think it could be fun to do teamwork, though.
Okay. I know Marnie and I don't have one, really to work on. So I think we're probably both good here to do some teamwork, right, Marnie?
Absolutely.
All right. So then, Jennifer, Abby, what do you guys want to do? Do you want to work on one for each of you? Do you want to all tag team together on one?
I'm happy to do whatever's easiest or uses our time the most wisely. I feel like I'm at a slight disadvantage because I haven't been here long enough, but I mean, certainly it could help me walking through some of these things and thinking about questions I need to go back and ask.
Yeah.
I like that. And I also feel like I learn by example, like seeing, so working through an example with you all can help bring up like questions that I would like to consider. So, I like that.
Right. So we just want to use Abby as an example then?
Sure.
Sure, I'll be the guinea pig.
Yeah, all right. Cool. So Abby, do you have access to vision, mission, values of the company?
Yes, I have it pulled up right now.
So you can like screenshot that and just drop it right in the mural,
Okay.
and we can all see it. And that'll start giving us a little flavor of who CBiz is.
Okay. All right. So this is. Does that work? Okay. That's part of it. And then, oh, why companies make this stuff so complicated. Okay. Here you go, Ryan.
Mhm.
I was trying to find a better thing than what's on our website because we have these 5 core values and I it's like you have to like scroll over the picture to show it and I cannot find a single PDF of it right now, of course, because I'm on the spot. But our core values, and this is where I think like CX could fit into them. There's 5 and they're all short. We are dedicated to the success of our clients, CX, right? We expect to win. We are one CBiz. We do the right thing, and our people matter.
So Ryan, did you say that what mission, vision, values, that just aligns to our, like, is it the cultural part of it, or is it all three of those, purpose?
You're muted,
Like
Ryan.
how do
It just helps so that when people are reading the charter, it should feel familiar.
okay,
Shouldn't be
gotcha. So
introducing
all of
new
it.
language, right? Right. It's not like
Yeah,
we copy these and paste them in somewhere else and the
right.
charter's done. We'd be missing if we didn't
Hmm.
make these things synchronize,
Gotcha. That makes sense.
right? So, I was working with the firm, and they're they had a four-part vision pillar framework, a four-pillar vision framework, and one of the pillars was to deliver legendary client experience. And all right, cool, but then you really start like legendary means people tell stories about it for generations. Like that's a very different bar than most set for themselves. We don't just want to be the best. We want to be talked about for generations to come. And so they do a lot of work in the public sector. So in our institutional clients, when the next town manager comes in after the old town manager retires, we want the people who remain to still be talking about us and telling stories about how great we were and how we helped them succeed. So you get that multi-generational impact. So when you start
That's a lot of
looking,
pressure.
what?
That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
That is a
High
lot of
bar.
pressure, right? So that's a really ambitious CX program to reach the level of legendary, but that starts informing their charter very heavily. You know what I mean? So now the word legendary starts getting sprinkled judiciously throughout the charter because it's a word everyone's already rallying around. So that's why we put these things in here to make sure we've got this operating system that's compatible. Right. So Abby, the next thing I want to ask is, and you don't have to reveal anything too confidential here, but if you look around the organization, do you see any challenges, particularly challenges that leadership are talking about regularly? Is it impossible to find the talent to go do the work that needs to be done? Are you, is there an existential crisis in the industry because of the threats of AI? Is there something out there that would be the rallying cry? And that's where we start getting into the cause for action, right? Why change?
I think we've had a lot of leadership changes, like as things settled out, because again, Markham was like formally acquired in November of 2024. So it's only been a little bit over a year. So there's been some leadership changes. Our practitioners are saying that, they have too much on their plates right now. So there's always that expectation leadership wants more, 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 and the practitioners are saying, well, we are at our max capacity. So I think that is definitely a constraint. I haven't heard a lot about AI or software issues yet. Again, I haven't been here a year yet.
All right. So there's this kind of theme here where we've, got this impediment, this problem in the business. So how are we gonna, typically that's what I'm looking at when putting a charter together. That's what's going to get people bought in. But the cause for action is something everyone in the company should be, oh yeah, we've had a lot of leadership changes and that's disruptive. And oh yeah, we all have too much on our plate and we can't possibly do anything else.
Well, Ryan, actually, you bring up another good point. So Markham was accounting only, and CBiz holds themselves out as like full service. So there's actually two parts to the company now. There's benefits and insurance, so there's B&I, and there's accounting. So kind of like the one hand still doesn't know what the other one's doing. So there's a lot of pressure and push to cross sell. But you have these practitioners that came in from Markham who provide accounting and financial services, and they're still like not fully aware of the benefits and insurance services we offer. And the benefits and insurance people, they love CX. They're like, yeah, talk to all of our clients. This is great. So there's we're having Markham was fine with the CX with financial services, but the CBiz financial services practitioners, there's a little bit of pushback. And so since they've had some leadership disruption on the financial services side, it's been a little difficult. But that's the thing, B&I is all in. So I feel like we've made a lot of progress there. I've already interviewed clients, we've surveyed them. So I feel like that side's going really well, but they need the financial services side to get with the act.
Right. All right. So if I like push the ball down the hill enough to start rolling that you guys can start getting a beginning on this charter. I don't want to guide too much. I'm trying to do just enough to put the pieces in place and get momentum rolling. What else do you feel like you need to start working through this?
I mean, I think we can start. Thankfully, you can edit this chart, so if it's crap, we can start over.
Yeah. All right.
Um,
Well, then I'm gonna go a little quiet here, put myself on mute, and I'm gonna let you guys start working through this. Of course, I'm always here as a
okay,
phone a
so
friend.
since this is um the first time that CBiz would be doing something like a CX charter, um, as far as a purpose, because I'm looking, I have that PDF up, that book that you have, Ryan. Is the purpose supposed to be CX specific or like broader to the whole company?
The purpose is the bridge between a vision, mission, and the cause for action. So, cause for action is like, what specifically, or like why we're doing something now. The purpose
Mhm.
is what kind of ties that why to vision, mission.
Okay.
So when you look at the purpose in this one, we exist to improve the human condition. We cannot achieve that mission without carefully understanding each client's unique needs and expectations, then responding to them. So we exist to improve the human condition. That's coming out of vision, right?
Mhm.
So there's our vision, and we can't achieve that vision if, and now you put your little bit of CX stuff in there.
Okay. Um,
And then cause for action is where you start tying the business challenges around um, to tie back to that purpose.
okay.
So I would look at, you know, you want to be recognized as the premier provider of accounting, insurance, and other professional business service, or, you know,
Yeah.
um, and yet with that, you've got leadership changes. No one can take on more. And you now have everything, but no one's selling everything because even your own people don't know all the things you have, much less your clients
Right.
knowing all the things you have. So that's where you're starting to kind of tie it all together. So if you went from vision to that pain point, that would be where the purpose comes in. And I often will write the purpose at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, at least
Um,
for our firm, which is accounting, my first sentence was how it ties to our strategic plan. Just like ours is kind of specifically under growth and like client experience. So I have like a little sentence about that. And then my second sentence for the purpose ties back to our brand promise, which is we passionately believe in the power of collaboration and what it can accomplish. And I kind of expand on that. So that's kind of how I structured it because at least with accountants, they like their data and their long-term goals and stuff like that. So that's why it's kind of how it fits, how CX fits into the bigger picture of the brand and our long-term goals. And then also because, it's client experience, kind of what our brand promises to our clients. So that's how I developed our purpose.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so I feel like maybe we should come back to that then. Cultural impact. Okay. I'm referencing Ryan's PDF here. Excellence begets excellence by carefully building great experiences for our clients. We build better experiences for ourselves. We cannot say we improve the human condition with integrity if we don't also continuously improve the conditions of our own clients' employees. Growing a culture passionate about client experience proves our commitment to our mission. So that's interesting too. Like cultural impact here, I feel like kind of hits on two of the core values we have, which are um being dedicated to the success of our clients and also our people matter. So um let's see here. Cultural impact.
Can I riff just a little bit out loud?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've often felt that living CX, it automatically includes the employee experience. You can't have successful CX without being mindful and aware of successful employee experience. And so what does a successful employee experience look like as relates to impacting successful client experience? I feel like it's sort of an infinity symbol. They work off of each other. So in terms of cultural impact, I don't know if this is exactly what is being asked for in the charter, but my mind goes to how client experience um, has a direct impact on employee experience and vice versa. So by applying the CX charter to our company combined with mission, vision, and values, I don't know if it's correct to say the hopeful cultural impact or the expected cultural impact is to lift everybody, which might translate into, of course, better retention of clients, better advocacy of clients, and it might even result in more joy for the employees because they're seeing a different way to listen and talk to their clients, more connected.
Mhm.
Again, I'm just riffing.
A lot of good stuff there. Hope someone wrote all that down.
I don't know if it's exactly on the mark, but I'm just trying to put something down for us to react to, and thank you for your input. It's CX is so easy to think about conceptually, and then actually doing the work is a whole lot harder than people think. And that's why CX jobs exist.
Yeah.
Like things that should be common sense are not. So that's why we're here.
Yeah.
Jennifer, how many cycles did we go through working on yours at RTI before we settled on where it landed?
Oh, it was a while. It was many iterations.
Yeah.
It was a very democratic organization, so there was a lot of input
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, Jennifer did the Lord's work there, shepherding all the voters in that democracy. I got to sit here and do the easy part of advising her. She did the hard work, much like I'm making you guys do now.
Okay.
And I
I'm
do like this mural tool because you can just get like little snippets and ideas and cluster them together, and then you can start teasing them out into the 1 to 3 sentences that we have for each space.
yeah, and I feel like I can come back to it. I don't feel like I'm stuck with this, and that makes me
Right.
feel better too.
And the nice thing about this mural link, if you save it, Abby, this mural doesn't go away, so this becomes a permanent record. So
Oh,
It's
cool.
not like when
Okay.
this workshop is over, the mural is gone. Like this mural is your
Erase.
mural. So
Okay. Cool.
yeah, so yeah, feel free to come back. You can share the link with others on your team and just keep collaborating on it.
Okay. Yeah. Um, okay. Again, I don't feel like I'm giving a final product here, but I feel like I'm going to move on from cultural impact and I can always go back because I want to keep working through this to see if it sparks anything for going back. So, scope, obviously, okay, thinking about breaking this into phases. And this is interesting because we do have a CX program. Um, and we have a lot of support from our CEO too, which is great. Um, but really, so kind of like how this example even says phase one and two have been completed. If we looked at phase one as creating kind of a CX program or some initiatives, we've done that. If phase two would be, pushing this across B&I, benefits and insurance, we've done that. So I think phase three would be something along the lines of, socializing the concept in financial services. So I'll try to spell that out here.
Right. Again, the charter is not meant to include everything you're ever going to do with CX. It's, generally you're looking out 1 to 3 years.
Okay.
Kind of like a strategic plan. It's what are we going to be doing the next, what's the basic scope of the next 1 to 3 years?
Would you get into details like depending on where you are, but like if you're going to do some sort of training, and we talked earlier about awareness, like what is CX and that sort of thing. Do you get into that kind of thing? I mean, you can, I suppose, but maybe that's just too much.
Yeah, I mean, again, this is a document designed to be shared broadly across the organization. So people are going to be asking, what's the change going to be?
Mm, yeah.
What are we doing? Here's where we're trying to answer the question, what? So, when it says create CX initiatives, yes, but is that answering the front lines question of what? What does that mean? We don't want to introduce more questions. Scope is meant to try to answer some questions. So I would say create CX initiatives, including, and then have 2 or 3 that you're going to do,
Sure.
including implementing client interviews and um, early phase journey maps or something like that, including interviews, surveys, and client panels. There you go.
Within CX, I do have a colleague who surveys clients and prospects even to
Yep.
just get market insights like across trends. So
Yep.
we kind of use that data to um, improve other areas too.
Great. So now I start, as someone who's in the organization, I start reading that. Oh, so we're gonna, all right, client interviews, client surveys, market insights. That makes sense. We're gonna implement them across B&I. So I know if I'm not B&I, okay, I can breathe easy. No change for me, right? There's gonna be education. For who? Is that for clients? Is that for employees?
I'm in the early stages of that. So we have a big learning and development group. It's like a subset of like HR, and they have a whole catalog, a curriculum of classes that they teach throughout the year, that help people with essential professional skills. And CX has always been a part of that. Last year they didn't teach anything though because of the two organizations coming together. So this year I'm trying to pick that back up. So there will be like CX specific classes for anybody in CBiz. So they won't just be that like client facing people, but other people in marketing could participate too. But it's all internal.
Right. So you might, spill that out a little bit more, internal CX education for all interested employees or something like that. And again, let's be careful with that, with the phrasing. So is that mandatory for all personnel?
Mm.
Is that optional for all personnel?
It's optional.
All right.
Question is client education in the context of CX something that you guys have come across or is standard practice in your experience, Ryan?
Client education in CX?
Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
yeah. Um, I would say it's best practice. It's hardly standard practice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, a little off topic from today, but I advise firms should be talking about client experience in their marketing. It should be something they are specifically calling out. Um, when you're writing proposals, you should have CX in your proposals. I mean, there's no reason not to talk about. If you're going to do client feedback and you've got journey based feedback where you're getting feedback along the way, tell people you're going to do that. Especially if you have long, complex B2B professional services. Don't wait till after someone checks out of the hotel to make sure the room is okay. You
Mm-hmm.
know, so the more you can communicate that um, in the marketing and sales process, I think you're educating the market, but you're also increasing your odds of winning. So so yes, I'm a fan of
I
it.
just saw one of the marketing people's RFPs here that they did for a client or prospective client, and my boss told me I needed to gather all the testimonials from the surveys. And it's not that I was taking my time. It was taking me a long time because it was the first time I'd done it. It was going through all the survey data to get all these
Yeah,
testimonials. And I sent it to the marketers and they're like, thank goodness I really needed this. And then I saw one of the pages they did and the blurb they wrote. It was a bit more than a blurb. They had like a whole page about CX in their
yeah,
RFP and they used client quotes too, which I thought was pretty cool. Um, but our CMO has already challenged us for this year to do a client CX facing piece because she received one
yep,
from some group that she works with. And I was like, oh, that's pretty clever.
yep. I definitely recommend it. If you want a digital version of that, like a little rabbit trail, but several of our clients have done this. SME is an engineering firm up in Michigan, but in their About Us, they have a client experience on their website, and they've got something like this as a proposal insert as well. So they lay out, here's our driving, experiential factors. Here's all those testimonials, and they've got gobs of them. They actually publish their feedback results
Yeah, that's cool.
by KPI, so you can see, you know, that they talk about their net promoter score and explain what it is and publish that. So imagine that as a one pager in your proposal, just to call that out. So anyway, keep going.
Okay. Okay, expectations and responsibility. Okay, all right, we will establish a CX Center of Excellence to design, develop, implement, and support a client listening and client experience initiative. The CX COE will propose metrics to track success. Executive will champion the CX program, articulate the vision and goals, and monitor performance metrics. Okay. Unit leaders and division managers provide resources and set text to. Okay, so the first one, we will establish a CX Center of Excellence to design, develop, implement, and support a client listening and client experience initiative. Okay.
We're looking at expectations and responsibilities.
Yes.
That's where, you know, here's what we're going to do. And so the CX Center of Excellence, if you're on that team, here's your job. Business unit leaders are expected to do this. Project managers are expected to do that.
Okay.
So you're kind of laying out a couple of those, key job titles in the organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know your org chart as an organization your size is, very deep, so we're not going to call out every job title.
Right.
But you should be saying, here's what our CX Insights team is going to do, because the whole organization is looking at the CX Insights team to lead this.
Mm-hmm.
Some kind of business manager, here's what we expect you to do. And then some kind of frontline personnel, here's what we expect you to do. And there may be, 5 bullet points, but there shouldn't be 15.
Okay.
I mean, you could have a bullet point. I've seen a bullet point for, back of house. So IT, finance, HR are expected to participate in how their back of house activities, enable the front of house to deliver legendary client experience or whatever it is.
Oh, this might be too broad. Well,
I like how this section is very upfront about who this touches and who's going to be adding a little extra hat to the many hats they wear.
Yep.
Even if it is just from an awareness perspective, they have to be aware that this is happening so they can support the people around them. But I think this section really helps the readers of the charter know who this impacts up
Yep.
front.
That's exactly it, right? Everyone wants to know, what does this mean? That's what the scope is. And what do I have to do? That's the expectations and responsibilities. So they're looking for themselves in it. Katie, have you done something like this in your charter?
Let's see. For the desired behavior specifically.
No, for the expectations and responsibilities.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, we kind of talk about how we establish an innovation center with a CX pillar, and that like the CX people and innovation people are going to provide training and instruction and resources. And then we're also going to have like an open feedback system for continuous like discoveries and opportunities. And then also just kind of articulating the firm's vision and goals with like a unified focus. So that's kind of what we have in there.
Gotcha. But you didn't cover down to like business line leaders or frontline staff.
Yeah, didn't get that far.
So you don't have to get that far. I'm just trying to, I like working empathetically on all these things. And so if the front line are reading the charter, because, really we're crafting this for the CEO to send to everybody.
Right.
Right. So someone of, real moral authority is the one pushing this out to the organization, and the front lines reading it, we're trying to anticipate what questions do they have, what anxieties are they going to have, and how do we, answer the questions, and particularly when the pain is everyone already has more on their plate than they can handle. How are we making this, reductive or not scary in some way, shape, or form?
I mean, again, these things will probably have to be rearranged and stuff.
Yep.
I'm trying to put down thoughts as you guys are talking.
That's what we're here
And
for.
I'm really bad at typing. I'm good at spelling though, I promise. Attendant host. So we have been, like, as service lines have their regularly scheduled meetings, we will attend those or even host like a smaller group meeting to talk to the people in financial services to get them on board. Again, I joined and B&I was already all in, so that's not been challenging at all. But I see what you're saying. I'm trying to put things forth that are concrete, that are actually a
Right.
little more tangible, and tell people how we're going to support them or support this program. Host meetings. Create. When the surveys close, I always take all the data and instead of just giving them like a giant Excel spreadsheet, I distill it and like say X% feel this way, X% feel that way. And um, I personally have read through every single client comment, but I always put it in AI too, just to see if
Right.
they can say it more eloquently than me.
So, the front of the house probably doesn't care too much how the soup is made. They want to know
Okay.
what they're being served, right? So it's less that you're gonna aggregate the data and everything else. You're gonna give them recommended actions based on the client insights.
Mhm.
You'll use the portal and intranet and meetings and things like that, but you're going to give recommended actions based on curated insights, and they're expected to incorporate those recommended actions into their work or into
Yes.
their client relationship. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Right. So now you start tying that together a little bit more. You're going to do the legwork of gathering, analyzing. You're going to recommend.
Why am I having such a hard time moving these boxes?
Which one are you trying to move?
This one, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. And you can resize these if we need to, make them smaller so we can fit them inside one of the boxes.
Okay. Sorry, Ryan.
Oh, no worries. I went to school for architecture, so I've got years of AutoCAD on me. These kind of things are second nature, and I sometimes forget not everyone grew up doing visual design for a living. So don't let me put words into your mouth. Is that the kind of thing we're talking about?
Yes, some of that first box I put kind of includes some of that. But okay, I see what you're saying. So this is more like high level. What are we doing that the top actually cares about?
Right.
Which is providing recommendations. Yes, as you said.
So kind of tied to that, the insights team will capture data, uncovers at-risk accounts, cross-sell opportunities, and service priorities on behalf of our clients. And then client-facing, see, I can spell too. Staff are expected to integrate insights and mended actions from um, CX Insights or CX team to retain, grow, and expand with clients.
Okay.
Again, my words, but just trying to type something down to, here's what the CX team is doing, here's what service line leaders are doing, here's what we're expecting the client facing staff to do.
Okay. That makes sense.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we talked a lot about when I was at my previous organization, we talked about is sort of like standards, like the standard of all surveys on all active projects, follow up immediately, document in the tool. Like those are getting into the tactics, but it is an expectation and it's a standard that we're tracking and we're holding people accountable to. So does that go, maybe it goes in the behavior. I don't think it's behavior, maybe it's expectations, but it's maybe just follow CX standards or something like that. Like we're not just saying go out there and use this as you wish. We're really saying these are you know, this is the bar we have that you need to meet.
And I think the answer to that question, Jennifer, is it depends entirely on the scope of your CX strategy and where your firm is on CX maturity. You're still
Yeah,
early
okay.
phases rolling out client listening. So your 1 to 2 year CX charter is we've stood up client listening. Right now, the expectations are every project's going to be enrolled in listening, and you're going to follow up to every feedback response that we get. Like
Yeah.
that's an okay thing to have in your charter. You're
Okay.
focused on some tactical fundamentals in the early phase.
Hmm.
Year, 2 years from now, as everyone's like, okay, we got this. Those behaviors are codified. You do your next generation charter, and now it's okay. Now you guys are asking and following up consistently. Great, you're ready for what's next. Well, what's next might be our insights team is going to synthesize best practices based on aggregate feedback, and you're expected to incorporate that into how you run your OAC meetings, right?
Sure. Right. Thank you.
I mean, there's not really a like right or wrong way to do these things. It's you're riding with where your organization is. What do they need right now?
Mhm.
And again, early phase, it's going to be more tactical. If you make it too complicated and too fluffy, early phase, it's not going to stick. So, Abby, getting into desired behaviors, I would look at your core values, right? Because each of these core values is expressed behaviorally, right? Dedicated to success of clients. That might be one we specifically pull apart here. What are the behaviors that would prove you're dedicated to client success?
Um, I think the biggest one that I've seen from comments is communication. I think that, and I know it's really broad. It can be about all sorts of things like fees or scope of project changing or not meeting deadlines. But I think communication would definitely be um, that's it makes me so mad that people don't just communicate though. Like sometimes I'm like, this is so basic. This is such a weird thing
Right.
to like have to put in a charter. Like email your freaking clients back. Like it's wild to me sometimes. But I think that's where it's easier for me to say that. And I'm not a practitioner, so their plates really are full and they have a lot of demanding things going on. So maybe it's harder than it seems. So maybe that's why this exists. But I think that's I think it's a source of a lot of frustration,
Right.
even when clients express frustration over other things. I think it all stems from communication. or poor communication. So I think a desired behavior would be to communicate. Um,
Right. And so that's where, what does that look like? What does that mean? Because communicate is one of those words that means 27 different things to, 27 different people. So, as we start kind of painting a picture to where everyone who reads this knows what you mean by that, that's what we start
mhm.
getting into these desired behaviors. So, um, you know, is that a community? Go on, Marnie.
I just wanted to share that when we were going through this early phase, that really one of the biggest things around desired behaviors and tied to this particular value dedicated to success of clients was raising the awareness of our client-facing people who are very proud of the work that they do, don't necessarily want to be told how to do it. Raising the awareness of listening, like the difference between like active listening versus just everyday listening, and by amplifying and raising that awareness of your client facing people, um, it is lending to the success of the clients, because we do end up, in my experience, I have found that you literally hear more. You hear what's not being said. You hear between the sentences. You hear the sentiment of the client um, by listening differently, which allows you to make additional decisions on how best to support their needs and expectations. And I know the surveys, like you say, gives a lot of detailed feedback around this, but I think the more we can help our client-facing people understand that clients really just want to be heard, or at least feel that they're being heard, rather than just being order takers and check.
That's a fantastic point, Marnie. And that was something when I've done some lost client interviews, I ask, did you bring this up to your client relationship manager? And they're always like, well, they didn't ask. So as we were putting together some of this data in this year-end model, we came up with this kind of like ask, listen, act concept. And it's something that like we have to really put a lot more work into like formalize and like push. But it is breaking up what you said exactly into like small chunks. So you need to ask your clients how they really feel, then you need to listen to them, and then you actually have to make changes. Um, so I think that is a really good way to articulate communication better for what I mean,
Right.
Ryan.
Right. So then it
Thanks,
becomes
Marnie.
about,
You got me there.
Thank you,
yeah, yeah.
Abby.
So proactively asking, listening empathetically, right? Uh, acting, you know, what does acting on it mean? Acting, in a timely way, acting in a, what's the thing we want people doing? So we really start articulating these behaviors very specifically.
Yeah, at our firm, we've been kind of pushing the message of like, just be curious. Like, just be curious about your client. What do they want? What are some cool things about them to kind of bond with them on a human level? So we're just really kind of trying to instill that, especially with our younger staff, who don't really like interacting with people very much, but just kind of trying to adjust that culture because we do have like a lot of like baby boomer generations who were very focused on kind of that relationship building. And that's kind of unfortunately going away, at least in our accounting firm. So kind of trying to kind of bring that back a little bit.
Yeah. Yep. Great.
I'll just share one thing that was started at my organization before I joined, but I've kind of built on it is they came up with like CX kind of guiding principles or best practices, behaviors that we want, and they are communicate. You mentioned Abby, adapt, initiate, and evolve, and so those are kind of four things, and all of those we tied to our core values. So how does it relate to integrity, diversity, community, things like that with examples. And so it was a way to connect to something that was part of our values and with like real life examples of how they do those four behaviors. And so anyway, it was very thoughtful and helpful, I thought. And when I got here, and now I'm using it to kind of build on within some of the education that we're doing internally.
Jennifer, what are those four areas again?
Communicate, adapt, initiate, involve. And for each of those, we sort of spell out like what does that mean, and some of it's already here, like communicate with like on purpose and the right time, and you can sort of qualify each of those. And then the last one, involve, like engage your customers, whatever they are. There's lots of there's different versions or types of customers. We have, people who the owners and the paying clients. We have, trade partners, architects and
Yeah,
engineers. So we can kind of qualify to like who are the customers that we're doing those behaviors with.
I like that. That's smart.
And
So
you could pick other verbs, but they're actions really.
yeah,
They're action verbs.
right. And page 4 of that 5-page document I have embedded has one firm's desired behaviors matrix, so you can start to see, relating is one of those things. Relate to your clients. Well, what does that mean? Firmly plant your feet in your client's shoes. Find out what other problems they're battling and see if you can help them. Well, Abby, you said cross-selling is a big target. Isn't that what you're trying to do? You got to relate first before you can solve.
Yeah,
So you put yourself in their shoes, figure out what problems they're solving or they're battling. Once you know the problems they have, cross-selling becomes easy. You reach out to
right.
clients and ask questions that will help you know what you can do to make them happier. There's that, listening proactively thing. Spend an afternoon with your client. Ask to walk through everything they're juggling right now. Because that's a desired behavior. If someone puts
Mhm.
half a day on their time card because they went and shadowed a client, no one's going to get in trouble for that, right? This is a desired behavior. We want you to go do some ethnographic research and watch how our clients work. And even if you only do that with a percentage of your clients, you're going to learn a lot more about all of your clients because you've gone and watched a couple of your clients. So this is
Yes,
a,
and
and in this case, this becomes like a addendum to, so that top row, relate, adapt, lead, partner, teach, measure, that might be what
mhm.
shows up in the charter. And then the behaviors matrix is like a appendix or a page 2 to the charter.
Okay.
All right. So we're getting towards the end here. Making good time. I need to refill my water. I'll be right back, but certainly if anyone needs a quick break, we can take a break, but we're almost there. Have you thought about measurement, Abby?
Um, Brian, I gotta be honest with you. I didn't know what to expect today, so I feel like I'm not doing as well as I wanted to. I wanted to like prep for this.
No,
Um,
this is great. You're doing
I think you're
exactly
doing
what.
great.
Yeah, seriously. This is
thank you.
exactly. I know you're new here and we just like totally threw you under the gun. So, like, you passed the test, you can come back for month 2.
Thank
Um,
you.
no, this is exactly what this is for. Like, we're here to help each other solve. So, um, where possible, if someone can walk away and feel like they didn't just learn about a charter, they actually have a start of one.
Yeah,
That,
this
that
is
these are the best workshops. Is when you actually get to do some real work, not just pretend.
yeah.
So I guess since we are kind of at a I at least need a quick refill of water. Do you want to keep going? Do you feel like you have enough to get you started? How's
Yeah,
everyone feeling today?
I mean, I feel pretty good. I feel like I can at least read through more of this while you go refill and try to start working on this.
Okay. I'll be back in just a minute.
All right.
I'm going to take a quick break to just real quick.
So, Jennifer, you think you're going to do a formal charter with HP?
Yes, I do. I think that would be helpful, and particularly in communicating with leaders, and at the sort of the broader. And we've done some of it, but not all in one place. So I think that will be helpful.
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts? I mean, the company.
I I think it would. I think we did a little bit of pre-charter work when we first started with HP,
Yeah,
so I think there is something out there.
there's, yeah.
Um, yeah, I got to dig that up and see, but I'm pretty sure it was focused on launching what's now launched. So
Hmm.
you're probably at the tail end of that phase.
Yeah.
You probably haven't seen that, have you?
I don't think I have. I may have, but I didn't see anything that was called charter. So maybe it was just something else.
It was at least in the scope. Maybe we
Hmm.
never actually did it, but it was in the original scope. I'm not sure we ever actually. Let me pull that up and see if we have it. If so, I'll send it to you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Project phase one. Did you ever get the the summary of the let's see, I think we actually have one here. Because I did interviews with a dozen of the
Yes,
executives.
I did get that.
Okay.
You sent me that.
Yeah.
That was with the executives, like 12 executives.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great.
And we planned a CX readiness assessment, but never actually did it.
Yeah, I think that.
I'm not seeing a charter. So maybe it was just something we proposed and didn't get done. So I've done enough of these, I forget like who and where I've done them with. So
I'm sure.
all right. Abby, it looks like you've got quite a bit of metrics. And Marnie, you're dropping some stuff in here too. Nice.
Thank you.
So talk us through the metrics, Abby.
Okay, so I think one obvious one is to improve our CSAT score year over year. For BNI, that would,
Right.
for benefits and insurance, that would really be, we already have a baseline, but for financial services, we have to establish one because we haven't done that company-wide yet.
Okay.
And then I think increasing the number of participants in our surveys and the number of interviews we conduct. And then again, my colleague does a lot of the insights. I'm not nearly as involved with that. But that's an interesting component of CX that we have too.
Gotcha. All right. Anyone have any feedback for Abby on these?
I really like how you're focusing on getting the numbers, like getting focusing on getting people to participate versus like focusing all on the outcomes, like the results of the feedback. Like I think that's something that I've struggled with, not my previous organization, but where I am now, where we're kind of in the early stages and we're trying to get people to send the surveys and do kind of the basics and not go too heavily into, yes, we want to look at the sentiment and the feedback in real time. And yes, that's really important. But getting people to actually do it first and then do that, like, that's where you start and then you can build on that. And the more feedback you get, the more reliable and generalizable the data is to the large organization, especially if you're looking across just certain kinds of clients or projects or markets. Like it's not as valuable if you only have a very small number. So I think
Yeah.
that's really good like that.
Thank you, Jennifer. And that's something that I've definitely benefited from my boss already going through this program and having several successful CX programs under her belt. Is and what I struggled with so much at the law firm that I was at, it's making sure people are comfortable with it because if they're not, then it's never going to succeed. It's making sure that we turn, all these relationship managers into champions of CX. And it was funny because I am a CBiz employee. Jen came from the Markham side. And so when we're in meetings, there will be somebody inevitably from Markham there, and they're like, "Oh, we'll have Jen talk about CX." And sometimes if she's not in the meeting, I'm like, "Oh, I'm part of CX too. Let me talk about that." Again, I'm still like getting ingrained here, but Markham definitely had a very client-centric culture, and so trying to get the CBiz practitioners aligned with that is very important because we want this to be successful.
Right. So yeah, early phase, metrics should focus more on participation than on outcomes. But I encourage you to have
Okay.
at least one metric in there that gives something back to the business. It's going to be tough to sustain a program over time if it's not generating business results. So, going back to the a cause for action, do
Hmm.
you see something in here that might say, that's a needle we want to move with our CX program in the first year?
Is there a metric that I can think of to impact leaders saying they're unable to take on more? Because the leadership changes I can't really do too much about.
Right.
And merging the two businesses, well, an employee's unaware of what we do from one side to the other, that's kind of falls outside of CX, unfortunately.
So, but you also said there's a cross selling mandate. Do we have any
Yeah.
metrics around the cross selling? Like right now, our average client is buying 1.4 services from us. A year from now, we have 1.7, right?
Yeah. There is some statistic too, like how many I don't know what it is. Um, but how many services clients use us for.
Yeah, we track at Client Savvy. We've got a KPI our board holds us accountable to called expansion, and that's how much revenue do we get from existing clients. So if last year this portfolio of clients gave us $1 million, and this year they gave us 1.2 million, we had $200,000 in expansion. So that's a KPI that we track, is that
Hmm.
expansion revenue. So and that expansion generally is coming from cross selling new or additional services. So that's why I kind of bring that up. It's one I'm familiar with, and of these things that you had, that seemed like the most measurable.
Right.
But leaders being too busy, do you track utilization rate as a
Yes.
so maybe they're overutilized, and so leaders I mean, it's kind of a odd thing to say. Utilization going down is a good thing, but
Right.
there might be something with utilization rates or something along those lines.
Yeah. Well, then at that point, maybe cross-selling is a little more realistic.
Right, right. Um, or because we've improved client experience, they're spending leaders are spending less time putting out fires. You know, I don't know accounting as well, but when I talk to the average principal in an AEC firm, they report spending 20 to 30% of their time dealing with escalations on projects, right? And then
Okay.
I ask them, how much time do you spend doing business development? They say 10%. It's like, oh, so you're spending 3 times more putting out escalations and fires than you are doing business development. If we could cut the escalations in half, you know, could you double your BD time? What's that BD time? Well, it's cross selling to your existing clients.
Hmm.
So those are some things you start looking at. And that's one of those things, you might not have the data today, but maybe you do a poll of leaders. What percentage of your time are you dealing with client escalations, avoidable
Right.
escalations? You could get a baseline today and then measure it every quarter.
As I mentioned, I came into this work because of client escalations, and um, it forced everyone to really be honest about root causes. And my mission became to really get a handle on those root causes and then really understanding which were client side in origin. And the harder part were those that were originated on the firm side. But it for that initial, what metrics are we following? I just to get buy-in from project managers would say that my goal is to reduce stomach aches at work. Because I would get these sort of just in time like Slack messages, Marnie, I think I need you. I think I'm going to have a difficult conversation today. And so it became part of my mission, simply said, reducing stomach aches at work.
Yep.
We were able to track that.
And now you have your purpose statement at the very beginning of the charter, right?
Yes.
Although, Ryan, thinking back to your workshop on, what was it, metrics and management, I think, CX metrics and management. There's lots of metrics that can be captured, but one of your points was if the metrics aren't the ones that matter most to your leadership, focus on those first.
Right, right. So yeah, that's another great point. Thanks for bringing that up, Marnie. So Abby, what are the KPIs that are on the executive dashboard every month in their executive meeting? So whatever numbers they look at every month in their executive meeting, one of those should probably show up on here, and we should be able to prove or at least strongly suggest. Don't put them all on here, right? But what one do you think we can most move because of CX? And then how do we start telling that story? Like, there's a lot of reasons for us to improve our client experience here at Clearly Rated, like, for sure. But the one that matters most, that our board holds us to, is NRR, net revenue retention. Like, there's 3 numbers they care about more than any other number, and NRR is one of those 3. And so as I am, because, at the end of the day, Eric founded Clearly Rated as a CX company. I founded Client Savvy as a CX company. So we're 2 CX gurus that sold to private equity. And there's a lot of advantages. We've got some great resources. But the leadership team doesn't have a CX background. So Eric and I are having to re-educate, some. And Eric and I did CX because it's our religion that we, grew up in. And now as we're making, trying to, as we're merging 2 companies together and we're growing and we're doing all these things, CX always gets stressed in those circumstances. And it's easy to let CX waver. So how are we maintaining a focus on CX? We always talk about it through the lens of net revenue retention, because that's one of the big 3 numbers. Right? And if it touches that number, it'll get attention because it's one of the big 3. So, Abby, if you're lucky, your leadership team is focused enough to have 3 big numbers. If you're not lucky, they've got 27, and you've got to try to pick which one they actually care about.
Right. Okay.
In a public company, it could be earnings per share. EPS might be the number that they care about most. I know in some law firms it's profit per partner. That's the number they care about most. So you figure out what the number is and work that in there somewhere.
Okay.
So if we go back, do you feel like you've got a sense of the 1-sentence purpose statement for this now? Is it coming into clarity? And I'm going to say, Abby, don't answer. I want everyone else to answer for Abby. What's a suggested 1-sentence purpose? And then Abby can pick her favorite. Or blend them all in. I'm gonna write one too.
You guys are good.
Who said that?
I did.
You did? All right. Yeah, there's some good stuff here.
Yeah.
Cool. So there's five ideas to get you started. We made you do all
Yeah.
the work. I thought we'd try to save you with this one.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone's help through this. This actually, in a sense, I'm actually relieved that I did this course first because this was a good, I feel like, experience into understanding all of these different components.
Yeah, this is where I think the certification program should start. This is like the day one stuff. So I'm glad your day one was here.
Yeah.
poor Katie's been here like a year and a half to finally get to day one. So, all right. Well, what else do you guys want to do today? I feel like we've been through the full cycle. I think, at least from my perspective, based on the contributions and the questions you asked, I think you all have a, a competent understanding of what goes into a charter. You know, in this case, I picked those 7 elements from the 24 up above. You could certainly mix and match your own if you wanted to mix and match your own. But I picked those because it generally closely follows that example. So, what else do you guys want to cover today?
Just a question. You mentioned the Newman Monson, and I think someone else asked about this, like the rollout, like when you're sharing a charter, are there some best practices that and you've mentioned some already in terms of like broadly versus sort of internally and how much detail, but in terms of the actual communication plan, do you have some best practices that you want to share with us? And I love hearing the example from Newman Monson, like having a card or, something to hand out, an artifact, something that people can look at and it's on the wall or on their desk or both, um, didn't know what you had there, anything you want to share, Ryan, or others. I mean, you might have done something, your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So I won't put the hold on a sec. Let me drop Newman's charter. Come on, just open it in Chrome. There it is. All right. So this is their little book, and so it bifolds. So it talks about what is a charter. It kind of gets into our why, our how, our what, our promise. And they made theirs a little denser. This isn't about anything new. This is about enhancing the best of what we already are and making it consistent. Here's where we get to the relating, adapting, partnering, leading, teaching. So what does that look like? How do we connect? Which way are you facing? Face outward, empathize with the end in mind, reverse engineer decisions. So it's got the like bullet point for each one, and then it dives in a bit deeper. So that's kind of how they simplified it a little bit. And then it's got the I'm in.
Yeah.
And you sign below. So everyone got the printed book. They signed their book, but they also had that public ceremony of signing the thing. So in their case, 45 people. It was practical to bring everyone into one room. Kind of make it a day, launch it, and do it that way. So we did a lot of CX training during the day. Jennifer, you've got what, 4,500 people? You're not bringing everyone into a room to launch something like this. And 4,500 people, you've got the safety committee trying to send out safety content, and HR sending out HR content, and L&OD sending out learning content. So everyone is vying for time and attention. So the bigger the organization, the more voices there are screaming for attention. It just makes it hard. So, in my mind, the bigger the org, the more important it is for this to come from the CEO. Because there's a director for everything sending out a memo every week. So, but it's not one of those things you can just push out and say once. I mean, like anything else, CX is culture. And culture doesn't happen with a memo. Culture happens with repetition. So, send it out, circulate it. Some of the larger organizations I've seen will have, 3 to 5 slides in a slide deck that they'll prepare. And so when the ELT gets together, they'll, someone will coach the CEO through walking through those 3 to 5 slides. And then the, VP of each business unit takes the 3 to 5 slides, and in their leadership meeting pushes it out to their round of leaderships. And then those leaders are expected to take those 3 to 5 slides in their next weekly meeting. And so it, cascades down the organization. But those same 3 to 5 slides should be, every leader should be able to talk about those. And that way it starts, from the top, but every leader is expected to share the message. And when every leader says it, when every leader kind of goes through the pitch deck, at least the leaders know it. Because you made them say it. So there's power in having the leaders of the leaders and then the leaders of the front line all say it. So that would be my recommendation as a cascade approach. Yep, Marnie?
I'm curious about anyone's examples that you might have of pushback or resistance that you've experienced when rolling this out. In my experience, when it came to that first wave of collecting client feedback, a lot of client-facing people, especially project managers, were afraid of punitive responses. They didn't want to know. And we had to get past that with a lot of empathy and a lot of assurance. This is not a punitive exercise.
Right.
But I'm curious what else others have gone through or experienced.
I've got a recent story to share, but I was giving room for anyone else to talk.
I'll just chime in at similar to you, Marnie, pushback from PMs who are afraid. I remember Client Savvy told us very early on, they said, they're going to say, they know what they're going to say. So they don't want to ask. It's going to burden them. And they're afraid of what they're going to hear. Like those were kind of, and then I think that was like a big thing that we spent a lot of time on, talking to the project managers and people on the front lines about the value proposition and how it wasn't going to be used against them, that this was about the process and not the people. And a lot of time on that at the early stages, I think, helped with that. And then we started getting feedback and sharing out. Like in general, the feedback is great. And yes, you're going to have outliers, but it's very useful and it's mostly positive. And when it's not, it leads to such good outcomes because, through stories, like we'll say this happened and this is what they did. And, so a way to get through some of that pushback was by telling stories, when there was particularly negative feedback. But it's a great question. I'd love to hear more from you guys.
And that's where that second kind of chunk of 12 items on the charter, like things to include, is for the second page. That's executives only. So that's where you start looking at, risks. Well, the risks are if executives react to challenging feedback poorly, then it's going to create fear and dampen the program, right? So this is, one of the things with dependencies. So one of the dependencies is leaders know the playbook for how to nurture and encourage active listening even when listening is hard, right? So now you can start communicating some separate expectations, that are, leadership eyes only. That's what that second list of things are. So for example, we just did the first global baseline for a, global engineering firm, a huge company. And, you get into a big organization, it tends to be more command and control. CEO is former military, right? So, CEO's a general, so kind of used to getting his way. And it's like, no, listen, make the first way voluntary. You haven't earned the right yet to mandate because no one trusts yet what's going to happen. And we're not done. We've got a 3-year contract. We're going to do more feedback. So make the first wave voluntary. And they got a good chunk of names. And then the feedback came in, and you know, just in time for their annual leadership retreat, which had 300 leaders from across the globe. So they had 3 days, 300 leaders. Everyone was talking about it. Leadership was really supportive. There was some challenging feedback in there. No one got in trouble. All of a sudden, within a week, another 60% of the list came in. Like, hey, is it too late to put this client in? Is it too late? The list grew 60% a week later. Like, we didn't plan for that. It was just all the fearful people saw that it was safe. So, those are the kind of things I recommend is iterate. Yeah, there's going to be risks. Anticipate the risks. Let it happen. CX is not one and done. It's evolutionary. So, same thing with your charter. One of the best ways to stress test this, and the bigger the organization you have, the better it works. Abby, you've got thousands of people in CBIZ. So when you get the draft of your charter, once your CX team kind of nods their head and your C-suite's like, yeah, this is feeling directionally right, go float it out to a dozen frontline people and say, hey, don't share this yet. I just want your feedback on it. What are the questions? What are the concerns? And what you're going to find a couple of questions like, oh, we didn't think about that. And so you work a little bit of that in there to answer that question. Or, man, this feels too ambitious. This feels overwhelming. Well, now you can work, something into that. So that's another way to roll this out is pilot it with a handful of people, see what the questions, the concerns, the risks are, and then address them. And that's what CX is all about, right? It's being empathetic to your audience. Get some feedback, adapt, try again. So on the aligned behaviors for the CX team, if there's one thing our CX team is supposed to do, we need to be more empathetic than anybody in the organization, and we need to listen and iterate more than anybody in the organization. So we should do that with all of our CX activities. Katie, how many eyes did you have on the charter before you finally finalized it?
That's a good question. We did have Danielle Berg look at it, and then the head of our innovation center, and then our CEO, who has a marketing background, and then our management committee.
Yep.
So probably
Lots of rounds.
7 or 8.
Right. Yeah. Great. Any other questions, concerns, risks, thoughts? Well, then it looks like we can wrap up 45 minutes early. It's not bad for a Monday. All right. So, March. I don't think I'm leading the one in March because I am traveling, I think, the entirety of March. Actually, it's March 23rd is creating a voice of client process. So, Jennifer, you've, I think, been through that a couple of times now. A real world and not. So, yeah. Abby, you were just talking about ramping up voice of client and client listening and surveys. So, that'll be a great one for you. We're going to cover some good fundamentals of how to do feedback and do it well. Yeah, I guess that'll wrap it up then. All right. Well, thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Nice
you.
meeting you.
Happy Monday.
Thanks.
You too.
All right.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.